The story begins with the protagonist standing silently in front of a door. His gaze lingers on it as memories begin to surface. He thought about how it was the first door, the gateway to the first world, and recalled the faces of the comrades he had once adventured with there. Even after all that time, he reflected that their faces remained vivid in his mind, as if no time had passed at all. He noted that it had been 10 years since he last stepped into that world, and assumed that by now it should have become peaceful. With that belief, he slowly inserted the key into the door marked 1. At the time, he had no reason to doubt it. He believed wholeheartedly that peace awaited him on the other side. However, what lay beyond that door, what should have been a calm and familiar world, was something far more unexpected. This is the story of the man who became the strongest after being banished from 100 different worlds, Ed the Mercenary. Now, armed with 100 powerful cheat skills gathered from each world, he begins his journey once again, this time to conquer all 100 worlds that once rejected him. And so, his story begins. Inside a noisy bar, between various voices of the crowd, a voice of a man comes up saying, "Hey Ed, you don't have to come tomorrow." He was the warrior in the heroes party where Ed is also a member. Facing this statement, Ed responded with a surprised look on his face. Huh? In front of him is the hero party with the hero, the warrior, the mage, and the healer, but despite Ed's confusion, no one says a word. Ed mumbles, "I don't have to come. Do you mean tomorrow is my day off?" "No," the warrior said. "I'm saying that starting from tomorrow, we don't need you anymore." Ed, still in disbelief, exclaimed, No, even if you suddenly say that, aren't you just too drunk?" "It's not all of a sudden. We've already talked many times without you," the warrior said. Along with him are the other members. Everyone seems awkward and won't even look at Ed's face. To top it off, the warrior said, "I mean, this is our consensus." Facing this confirmation, Ed slowly realized the weight of the situation. He said, No. Huh? This is all of your consensus? Look, didn't we all make a promise to defeat the Demon King? But despite his hopeless pleas, everyone stayed quiet. Desperate, Ed turned to the hero. "Hiro-sama, you're joking, aren't you?" "No," the hero said. "We are serious." He then continued, "Hey, Ed, you were definitely a talented person, so I invited you to the party, and everyone was happy to welcome you. And in that short time since you joined, there have been many things you helped me with and taught me. But how are you these days?" He then complained about how Ed has been slacking off during training, cutting corners on tasks he was entrusted with, and while everyone is improving their abilities for the upcoming battle, Ed is just the same as when he first joined. Even so, they hoped that someday Ed would be motivated again, but so far they have endured enough. Facing these accusations, Ed couldn't argue back and lowered his head somberly. Seeing Ed with his gaze lowered, the hero put out a sigh before deciding to finalize his statement. Yes, Ed, you are now banished from the heroes party." Ed, hearing this, stayed silent, sitting awkwardly in shame. Or so they thought. Suddenly, a loud mechanical sound came up with the notification, "Condition met, 10 minutes remaining until return." At the sound of this notification, Ed suddenly put on a big grin. He then jumped up into the air, ecstatic. "Yes, yeah!" The other members were startled. They questioned if the shock of being banished had drove him insane. Ed calmly said, "No, it's just that my wish finally came true." He then continued, "Oh yeah, can you take this before I leave?" Suddenly, black smoke appeared around his hand, swirling into a small vortex. His teammates, the hero and the mage, were the first to recognize his skill. "Hold on a minute, is that—" Pulling from the black vortex, Ed put down stacks of book. "That's right, this is an instruction manual." "No," the mage exclaimed. "I meant you have a skill like dimensional storage with you." Turns out it was what the vortex was. "Why didn't you say so? If you have that kind of skill, then there are so many ways to utilize it." Suddenly, Ed interrupted the mage's rambling. Ed then redirects their attention to the books.
Turns out those were a list of training methods, ways to acquire new skills, books that he had prepared for them to use as a reference to grow stronger. Reading some of the books, the healer, amazed, asks Ed, there's this magic I'm supposed to be able to learn that has a name I don't know of. Ed took a look. Oh, I see. I think that's something you'll learn better as you grow older. I've put together the details on a separate sheet, so read through them later. The healer thanks Ed, impressed by his capabilities. Next up, the warrior brought up one of Ed's maps, saying how stupidly sophisticated it is, as it has all the layouts and hidden traps and passages noted down perfectly, even places they have never been to. The warrior, in disbelief, questioned how Ed even had this map, but he quickly got interrupted by Ed making a gesture for silence. He said, well, the details are a secret, and I'm not part of the hero's party anymore. Ugh, the warrior was upset. Looking at the party members being amazed by Ed's capabilities, the hero realized how mistaken he was. He quickly bowed down, apologized to Ed, saying that he had no idea Ed was doing all this work without his knowledge, and asked for forgiveness. Along with him, the other members took turn apologizing also. Ed was awkward, saying, no, everyone, please raise your heads. I didn't mean to do that. It's just that you've all been good to me and I wanted to be of use to you after I'm gone. You idiot, we're taking back the decision, the mage said. She then asked, are there any other idiots, myself included, who have any objections? The hero then said, hey Ed, I'm ashamed to ask you again. Hiro-sama? Would you like to… I'm sorry, but I can't come back. Ed coldly refused, making such a funny face. Huh? The party were confused. Hiro then said, it's right, it's not convenient to banish you then ask you to come back now. But Ed assured him it's not like that. He then said, anyways, I'm looking forward to seeing you all defeat the Demon King. He then immediately dashed out of the bar, running away despite his teammates' pleas for him coming back. Running across the town, hearing the system notification, remaining time until the return, 10 seconds. Ed smiled and thought to himself, finally. He climbed up the top of a bell tower, finding a hiding place. Then, as the timer goes down, the system begins executing world transmigration. A massive portal of lights appears, pulling Ed in, bringing him to a new dimension. And as he steps his first foot into the dimension, the system says, world transmigration complete. Ah, it's been a while since I've been here, Ed said, as he stood in this mysterious dimension. He noted how it's been a year this time, and that it took rather a long time. He then took a sit and finally relaxed. Behind him were rows of doors, each with a different number. He then said, I've done my best, and I finally made it. Then it's your turn, as promised, right? His gaze darkened as he stared into the magical sphere on the table, with the reflection of his face on it. He then stated, take me home. A while had passed, and nothing happened. Now it's just Ed sitting in front of the sphere. He mumbles, not gonna say anything till the very end. Well, as I expected. He starts recalling about the past, when he, who lived a peaceful and ordinary mercenary life, was suddenly summoned to this place, and laying there was a mysterious book of pure white, all the way to its blank cover, and how there was only one door. First he was confused and didn't know what to do. He then decided to read the book, no matter how crappy the contents are. The book stated, go through the door to another world and get recognized as a companion by the hero there. Work together for more than half a year and gain a certain level of trust. And by being exiled, the conditions will be met. Only then will he return to this place. In addition, once the door is opened, it can never be opened again. Instead, there will be another door leading to the next world. Back to the present, reading all this again, Ed sighs and mumbles, what even is this? Really? No matter how much I think about it, I still don't understand the content. He then turns around to see his long life achievement. In front of him are 100 doors divided in various rows, which is the proof that he had spent about 100 years completing these worlds. He then complains, do you understand? I finally did it. Then, wouldn't it be great if you could create a little celebratory mood?
he said as he points his finger to the sphere. But God remains silent. Feeling hopeless, he crouches down and stares at himself on the water-like floor. Can't help but let out a sigh. Thinking about it, he thinks that it's certainly nice that this world gave him the ability to not get old, and not just his age, but his physical attributes. When in one world, he can train to get muscular or eat to get fat, but once he completes a world and gets sent back to the white world, all those changes reset, and he returned to the body he was in the moment he first came here. In short, his body and spirit is always in his 20s. Thinking about it, he wonders, if I go back home now, would I become an old man over 100 years old? He then quickly scoffs at his thoughts. No one would probably care about that. Not even the idiots. Not even my mom. Just as he thought so, he can't help but feel a ray of nostalgic memories pulling back. The images of his families, his friends, and himself. But the memories, the faces of those dear to him, they appeared a little scribbled, a little vague. He's forgetting them, slowly. Realizing this, Ed let out a small chuckle. "That's enough," he says. "I did it, right? Now fulfill your promise this time. Take me home." Suddenly, the sphere starts glowing. Ed noticed and states how every time he's exiled from a world, the crystal sphere would glow and give him a new mysterious power, which he calls exiled skills. These skills can have different effects, ranging from a mysterious different dimension storage box, Wanderer's Treasury, automatically recording the places you've been to on a map and only you can see, travel footprints, which he used to create map for the warrior, allows a person to see talents that lie dormant in human, glasses of 7 lights, which he used to cultivate talent for the healer, or a skill that helps him replicate something he has seen only once, half-fledged counterfeiter. It was because of these powers that Ed, an ordinary person, somehow managed to make it through the hero's party. He doesn't care if this time is the last achievement reward, but if the sphere is going to give it, then how can he not take it? He smiled as he puts his hand on the sphere. Suddenly, the sphere sends a wave of electricity into his body, moving up to his brain. That's how he receives the new power. Oi, seriously?" he says as he looks at the skill. "You sent me another amazing one." It's the first time he has seen a one-time use ability, and what's more, the effect is... The skill explanation was then cut short for later reveal, as Ed says it's too precious to use until the last minute. Suddenly, something caught his attention. "Huh? Ah, that way?" he says as something mysterious is emerging from the floor from a distance. Fluctuations in space. Did a door appear again? No, wait. More doors were always next to the last door. There's never been a door on the other side. Does that mean... He stares at the newly emerged door, numbered 0, which means the door leading to his world, he thought, as his face breaks in a smile of relief. This is it. If I open it here, I'm sure I can go back to the world where I was born, the world I've always wanted to go back to for 100 years. He then thinks, wait, 100 years? Time in another world flows normally, so could 100 years have gone by in the original world also? Thinking about this brings a chill down his spine. Then, what's on the other side of this door? After 100 years, everyone... The thought of how his family and friends might be dead after 100 years behind that door quickly makes him lose his cool. He starts shouting, "Hey, God! I dedicated 100 years to you! You could even say it was stolen from me." Without understanding the reason, the purpose, or even the meaning, I just kept doing the labor that was forced on me. Then at least make it up to me at the end. Or do you want me to use the skill from earlier here? Is this the reward for my accomplishment? This is not a reward. But despite his pleas, God still said nothing. Suddenly, the book fell down from the sky, catching his attention. "Huh?" he says as he picks up the book. "What is this? The same book as the first one? Do you want me to read it?" "What? The digits under the number plate are... It represents the time that has passed in the world inside the door since leaving that world," he says as he notices the small number row under the door's number plate. "Since when did it appear? The row of number is 0000. In other words, he can go back to the time when he was kidnapped and confined." The realization slowly washed a sense of relief over him.
he can go back to that place on that day. Overjoyed, he tries to open the door, but something is not right. The door refused to open. He was confused. Just then, another book fell down and landed right on his head. Ugh, what's this? Another book? He picked the book up and opened it. Inside was a key, along with a message. Commemoration service of your total expulsion. God is just messing with him, to be honest. Damn you. I don't know if there can be a more unwanted commemoration service in the world. Ed scoffed, trying to contain his anger. He then continued reading, "This key will open the door to the world I've visited previously, but only once. I can revisit it, then return to my world. And with that, this key will be lost. At the same time, the door to the world of 000 will open?" He then thought to himself, "Finally, with my own eyes, I can see the world that I've walked through." "Oh, wah, I don't need it," Ed scoffed, making a genuinely uncomfortable face. He found the thought of revisiting an old world in order to come back to his original world tedious. After trying to regain his composure, he thought, if the conditions for the return are to be exiled again, I'd lose my temper with all my might. But if I just need to use it on the door around here, then it's not a big deal. The important thing is to go to a suitable world and come back right away. With that, it should be an easy win. Having found a solution, Ed's mood got way better. He started running, dancing around, having fun while choosing the world he would revisit. Here? Or this one? Or this one? He can't seem to make a decision. Just then, as he looked up, his gaze are met with a specific door, a door that immediately caught his attention. Door 1. The first door. The first world. Looking at the door, Ed recalled, "I had a tough time. Everything was new to me, and I was thrown into the first world without knowing what was going on. Joining the heroes party, they said, but it's something that can only be done when you are capable enough to be a hero yourself. I was merely as strong as a guard in that area. There was no way I could get in. What made it possible was the first exiled skill I received as soon as I was summoned there, Accidental Flag Bearer, a skill where fate brought me and the hero together. Thanks to that, I managed to get into the heroes party. But at that time, I didn't have the strength to fight alongside the heroes, nor the skills to be useful. I don't know when I'll be thrown away. In fear, I desperately continued to search for what I could do. From arranging lodging to procuring consumable supplies, carrying luggage, gathering information, I did whatever I could think of. To be honest, I don't know what those three thought about it, but for a year and a half before I was exiled, they were definitely my companion," Ed thought, as he recalled the figure of his old teammates, a muscular man, an elf woman, and a young man in the middle, the hero. He then looked at the number plate on the door, which indicated that 10 years have passed in that world since he left. Ed thought, in 10 years, they'd have enough time to defeat the Demon King. I guess it's a nice and peaceful world now. Having thought about it, Ed made his decision. He decided, why not go sightseeing in this peaceful world? It is practically a forced trip, he thought. Even now, when I think about it, it's terrible. But if I said I hated everything, then I don't think that would be true. There were a lot of hard times, but there were also good times. Let's go. I've missed you guys, Ed thought, as he slowly opened the door to that world. Stepping foot into the world, he was met with a bright ray of sunshine as his eyes adjusted to the sun. He thought, to the beginning of my journey in different worlds. In no time, he realized the scenery where he's standing right then. It was the same place as the first time he arrived. He thought he might have forgotten, but now that he's here, he's slowly recalling it. After putting the key back somewhere safe, he looked around. There should be a town over there. Oh, there it is. Even the Demon King should have been defeated by now, so there shouldn't be any strong monsters around here in the first place, he thought. But it's important to confirm. Just as he was evaluating his decisions, the ground behind him rapidly emerged. Huh? Ed suddenly felt a sharp sense down his spine, an attack incoming. He quickly leaped forward and dodged. The strike missed him, hitting the ground, causing the ground to shatter completely. While in the air, Ed finally got a glimpse of the enemy behind him. He was surprised. Landing and regaining balance, he expressed his unhappy attitude toward the thing in front of him. "Oi, oi, why would such a big bastard be in a place like this?" he said. Facing him was a giant snake monster. Its figure towered over Ed, its cobra-like hood, whose scales had developed into several extra pairs of eyes, piercing its killing intent through the newfound prey. Its venomous fang laid bare, ready to attack at any moment. A predator with unmatched bloodthirst. A scene that would strike fear into anyone. But not Ed. Standing before such an intimidating enemy, he wasn't fazed one bit. In fact, he was fairly calm and collected. "No, this is the perfect situation to try it," he said. Activating Wanderer's Treasury, he pulled out a sword. "I guess I can use the exiled skills normally," he said. He then redirected his gaze forward, and before his eyes, the giant snake had already plunged in at him with his mouth wide open, slammed its bite into him. "How about this one?" Suddenly, the snake realized that its fang, despite coming down full force, could not penetrate Ed's skin. He had activated an exiled skill, Invincible, Impenetrable Wall. His whole body became unbelievably tough. "Too bad, that's not enough. I guess you can't reach my body like that." The snake could not believe what was happening. It tried to brute force its way through, trying to push its bite through him. But Ed's skin was too tough, way too tough for its fang to handle. Suddenly, a sound. Crack! The snake was startled by a sharp pain. Both of its fangs had broken against that impenetrable body. Desperate, the snake wound up his next attack. Ed looked at it, amused. What's next? The snake started shooting out a magical attack, but Ed already saw it coming. Magic dissolving liquid. That sounds about right. He then activated another skill, Magic Absorb, Magic Curtain of Absorption. The attack appeared to be neutralized immediately. I swear, it's only been like 5 skills and this guy is getting too OP already. "And this is the last one," Ed said, jumping up in front of the desperate snake. He wound up the sword, and in one single strike, he sliced the snake in half. Landing down with pieces of the monster falling down to the ground behind him, Ed put on a confident smile and said, "All right, let's take it slow this time, shall we?" Putting the sword back to the storage, Ed started walking around. He looked at the scenery and goes, "Ah, that's right. It was a place like this. I miss it. Originally, I was bound to join the hero party and work with them, but not this time. I'm free to go wherever I want. What's more, I noticed that the Wanderer's treasury is still full of gold and treasures." With this, he thought to himself, shopping sounds fun too. He couldn't help but thought about things that he would like to buy, like the armor designed to look like the gear the heroes wore that time, maybe some steamed buns and hero manju buns too. He thought as he imagined himself wearing the hero's armor while holding a bunch of steamed buns. That sounded like heaven to him. Wah, I definitely don't need it, but I want some. But his fantasy was quickly cut short. Suddenly, he noticed the town from afar, but something wasn't right. The uneasy feeling rushed through his body as he himself rushed toward the town. No, no, no! You're kidding me, right? What's going on? He finally arrived at the destination, but before his eyes was the town, or so what was left of it. The town had been completely torn apart. Why? Were they attacked by demonic beasts? No, but the Demon King should have already been defeated, right? Then maybe it's because of the war between humans themselves? As they walked into the ruins, the scene was devastating. Houses were torn down, debris scattered all over, roads barely maintaining their path, human corpses which has been left for too long. Only skeletons remained. It's desolating. Looking around, Ed started questioning the reason behind all this. It's understandable that the humans would become each other's enemy after the demon dies, but still, it's only been 10 years. It shouldn't happen that quickly, and it certainly can't be called a renovation. What the hell is going on here?
Suddenly, he heard a voice call out to him. "Hey, young man, what are you doing here?" Ed turned around to see an old man rummaging through the trashes. "There's nothing left around here, okay?" he said. "Huh?" Ed was confused. The old man asked, "Did you get the wrong information?" He tossed a small pouch of scavenged goods to Ed. "Be careful next time." Thanks," Ed said as he caught the pouch. Internally, he thought to himself how he didn't come here to scavenge for rubble. He tried asking the old man, "More than that, tell me, why is this place in such a bad condition?" "Huh? What are you talking about? It's been 2 years since this place turned into ruins, okay?" "Eh?" The man then continued, "It was the Demon King's army. This place got completely wiped out by their attack." The sudden revelation shocked Ed. "Huh? The Demon King's army? 2 years ago?" In disbelief, Ed asked, "What do you mean, old man? The Demon King's army is still alive and well?" "Oi, I don't know what you mean, but the Demon King's army has been rampaging for a long time. You don't even know about that? Where did you really come from?"
Ed couldn't believe in his words. A long time? They're not the remnants, and they have been rampaging for a long time? What happened to the heroes? Hero? That's right, there was a hero, Hero Alexis. 10 years ago, the prince of this country was on the verge of subjugating the Demon King, that Alexis. Hearing this name, the old man finally realized what Ed had been talking about. He turned around before hitting Ed with a cold, devastating truth. He died 5 years ago fighting the Demon King's army. His words hit Ed like a truck. His mind went blank. His gaze darkened in disbelief. Disbelief in a situation too grim to be true. Ed tried arguing back. "He's dead? But he's a hero, right? It's not that easy." But then he recalled the scene from earlier when there was such a giant snake monster near town. What he didn't want to believe the most was slowly becoming undeniable. The old looked up and argued, "No matter what you think, this town is proof of that. Certainly, if the hero-sama was here, this might not have happened." Ed still couldn't process it well. He grabbed the old man. "Hey, then where are the others? There were 2 more members in the heroes party, right? Where are they?" The old man, genuinely startled, tried to push Ed away, saying, "I don't know. Maybe they died together. At least I have never heard of them being alive." Hearing this, Ed was dazed. For him, all hope seemed to have been lost. He couldn't help but be drowned in desperation, strangling him, unable to blurt out even a word. Looking at him, the old man continued, "This is terrible, isn't it? They gave us so much hope, and now this. I've been hearing all this talk about how they were moving forward, but after this, I'm not sure how much of it was even true. We masses don't know anything else." The old man's words keep hitting harder after another, hitting all the strength out of him. His leg gave out. He tried to get himself sitting on a boulder as he collapsed. The old man then continued, "Well, whether you're a prince or a hero, if you die, that's the end of it. Goodbye. You better get moving too," he said to Ed, who was still overloaded with too much information. "Dead?" he questioned himself. The situation is way out of his imagination. He thought, as the system suggested, each world will be completed after he were exiled. It never even dawned on him that by complete, it can also mean destruction. Dead? He's dead? Why? Why? What the hell happened after I was exiled? A party of heroes, real heroes, not fake like me, lost to the Demon King's army? Everyone lost? And now they're dead? He was losing his mind as he recalled his teammates. Alexis, Gonzo, Tia. Is it because of me? Because I left? No, that can't be true. There's no way this unreasonable ending will change depending on whether or not there's a mere luggage bearer. That's just too conceited. Thinking about his dead teammate, he couldn't help but imagine his worst nightmare. The image of his teammates, or rather, their lifeless body, staring back at him. He felt so guilty. Finally, with my own eyes, let's confirm the ending of the world we have traveled through, he decided. Appear, exiled skills, Akashic compass. In his hand manifested a compass with a shape similar to a gyroscope. He commanded it to search where hero Alexis died. The compass showed the image of a boulder, so that's where he died. It pointed to a direction, the same direction leading to the Demon King's castle. It's unmistaken. The hero is no longer in this world. Looking somberly, Ed asked the compass where Gonzo, another teammate, died, and the compass responded with the same location. They fought and died together. With each notification of his fallen teammate, Ed's mind slowly getting more foggy. He questions himself, what am I even doing? Am I going to find the place where they died and build a grave over there? Alexis, Gonzo, and Tia. Tia, where did Tia Lunarita die? The compass processed the request, and in an instant, the result appeared. Ding! Not applicable. Huh? Ed's eyes glowed as he realized what just happened, a glimmer of hope. He abruptly got up, shouting, Tia, what's the current location of Tia Lunarita? The compass started spinning as he nervously waited for the result, and in no time, the compass showed an image of a treehouse where Tia might be. Ed's eyes lit up, and the moment the compass decided the direction to Tia, his eyes sharpened. Exiled skill, Hermes Dash. Suddenly, the skill activated, giving Ed unmatched speed movement. He started rushing through ruins, jumping through obstacles. His steps were so aggressive it shattered grounds where he stomped. Tia, he mumbled as he got past the ruins, running into the highland. Tia, she's alive! Tia, he said as he started recalling the figure of Tia, his teammate. Traveling through lands, in front of him lay a vast lake with a flock of birds in the middle blocking his way, but it didn't slow him down one bit. Tia, the image of him was slowly getting clearer, and before long he remembered her warm voice. Ed! Exile skill, Mirage Shift, he shouted, activating another skill. A 1-hour timer started running as he blitzed through the lake, ramming into the birds, but instead of hitting them, he seamlessly phased through them. That's what the skill does. Then, with the timer still going down, Ed grinded through mountains, pierced through blizzards, and in no time he's dashing across the Demon's Valley. Ding! Suddenly the timer was up. Did the effect wear off? Ed questioned, but he just kept going. Over the distance, there was a giant castle, and from that castle, a voice went up. Hear me, my demon brothers and sisters. With this expedition, we will put an end to another of the humans' towns. Our victory is near. It was a demon commander shouting. In front of them was an army of demons, with goblins, orcs, trolls, low dragons, undead knights, gathered in big numbers. They cheered the commander's speech as they were about to invade human land. Suddenly, the commander noticed something afar. Someone was coming. It was Ed, running at them with shockwaves in his dreidel. He shouted, "Move, move, 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 move!" Without the mirage effect, he blasted through the whole army, killing all of them. He really A-trained a whole demon army. The demon commander, getting flung into the air, confused, "What's going on?" But despite all of this, Ed kept moving. The scene was then zoomed out to the scene of Earth looking from space, showing the scale of which Ed had traveled. After a while, Ed finally arrives at the forest where Tia's house is. He was tired, panting for breath, but none of that mattered now, because in front of him was the treehouse where the compass pointed to. Actually, there's one thing that mattered. He thought, oh no, I should have brought a souvenir or something. He opened Wanderer's treasury and started rummaging through it. There must be something nice and decent here, he thought. Huh? This is it, orange fruit. I'm sure Tia liked sweet fruits, so he also pulled out a small basket and put the fruits in, trying to make it presentable. Okay, let's go with this, he said, still unsure of his choice of gift. He then made his way to the front door, bringing his fist up to knock on the door, but just as he was about to knock, he hesitated. Wait, from Tia's point of view, I'm nothing more than a troublemaker who was exiled from the hero's party. If such a person suddenly comes to visit your house, will you be able to greet me with a smile? Thinking for a little, he grinded his teeth. I didn't just come this far just to run away. and with his steeled resolve, he knocked and mentally prepared for what's next. Phew. But no one answered. Huh? No one is coming, he tried, knocking the door again. Anyone home? Still, there was no response. No way, is she not at home? Hello? Anyone inside? He tried leaning on the door to hear if there's any sound behind the door, but it turned out it wasn't locked, and the door gave way under his weight, leading to him stumbling into the house. No, that's not it. The door was open. I didn't mean to come in without permission. Ed panicked, trying to explain, but sudden he heard a voice. Who? The voice was identical to the nostalgic voice of his old comrade, and before him was a beautiful elf woman lying on the bed. The various warmly glowing lights of the forest spirits flocked around her slightly, adding touch to the beautiful but a little messy and unkempt look of a girl who just woke up. God, she's beautiful. It was Tia, who then asked, "Who's there?" Tia, who was still not fully awakened yet, looking at the figure of her old comrade, who she had not met once for 10 years. She couldn't believe her eyes. No way! Am I still dreaming? Looking at her, Ed got awkward real quick. He couldn't find the right word to greet Tia, and ended up just standing there, calling out her name again. Tia? After a moment, Tia got up, looking at Ed, his reflection imprinted in her eyes. She asked again, "Ed? Are you really Ed?" Looking at Tia, Ed recalling the elf girl with that sun-like yellow hair and those jade-colored green eyes, it was definitely her. Her images burned in within Ed's mind that despite 100 years have gone by for Ed, she was still the same as he remembered her. Ed tried to call out, Oh, hi. But just as he was trying to get his words out, Tia jumped out of her bed, landing down on Ed, hugging him so tightly it even startled him. Ed! 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 She genuinely couldn't hold back her immense excitement and happiness from seeing Ed after such a long time. Ed was rather startled. He panicked. Wait! She's too close! Wait, calm down. Too close. You're too close. Tia, still barely holding in her excitement, grabbed Ed's face, squeezing it from side to side, trying to make sure that it was actually Ed and that she wasn't dreaming. Is Ed really here? I never thought I'd see you alive again. Ed tried to calm her down. You're exaggerating a lot. What do you mean by not seeing me alive again? Tia explained. What are you talking about? You should have been famous as a member of the Heroes Party, but no matter where I went, no one had ever heard of Ed after we parted, so I thought... Ed finally understood the reason for her worry. He said, that was my bad. I didn't mean to worry you, but it wouldn't look very good if I was exiled from the Heroes Party, would I? So I changed my name and started working in a different country. Ed explained, with Tia still sitting on his chest. This looked hella funny, I'm not gonna lie. Internally, Ed thought about how in reality, 10 minutes after being exiled, he returned to the white world. Tia, hearing this explanation, Tia finally forgave Ed. I see. Anyway, I'm really glad that Ed's safe. Phew, that's a relief. She then relaxed, noting how she was about to fall over because he moved too much right after waking up. Ed panicked and tried getting her to sit on a chair. Just then, she noticed Ed's orange fruits lay all over the floor. Ada? What's this? Orange fruit? Why are there so many of them? Just a little souvenir for you, Ed said. Tia heard him, thanking him. I'm flattered, but there's no bath in this house, A bath? Why go to all the trouble of eating in the bathtub? Tia said, Ed, orange fruits are usually eaten after cutting in the bath. It smells so good and makes your skin feel soft and smooth. Ed was skeptical. No, if you eat it normally, it'll also taste sweet and delicious, won't it? Tia, hearing this, was genuinely weirded out. She looked at Ed with a concerned look. Ed, seeing her face, tried to reason with her. I'm not lying. Try it. It's absolutely delicious. And to prove that to her, he started cutting up the fruits, ensuring Tia the fruits will taste good. During that time, Tia took a good look again at Ed. She noticed something and asked, Hey Ed, why are your clothes so tattered? Huh? I've been traveling around the world for a while, just to see an old lady I used to know, Ed explained playfully. By an old lady, he meant Tia. Hearing this, Tia tried to laugh it off. What's that, Ed? But looking at her, it was clear she couldn't hide her happiness, knowing that there's someone out there who still thought and cared about her. After that, she said, "I'm going to change my clothes, so take your time, Ed," then went to get changed. Hearing that, Ed mumbled to himself, realizing that her clothes she were wearing just now was her pajamas. Just as he was thinking about it, Tia poked her head out of the curtain and teased Ed, asking if he wanted to change clothes together, since his clothes was tattered. But Ed quickly got shy and scoffed, "I'm not changing my clothes." Though he said that, he couldn't help but start thinking about how he had never been popular with women. Despite that, back then, Tia would casually touch him and bring her face so close to him that he could feel her breath very often, leaving him shy and shaking. Putting the fruit platter down, he looked around and mumbled to himself, "So this is Tia's house. A wooden house inside a large tree? It's rather comfy." He looked around, the table, the door, the bedroom, curious about the place of the person who was once so dear to him. Just then, Tia came down. "Sorry to keep you waiting, Ed." "Ah!" Ed was startled, feeling guilty. "That's not true. This is—" Just as he was trying to explain, he saw Tia, wearing a beautiful adventure clothes. I don't even have enough vocabulary to describe her, so please just look at her for yourself, but she was beautiful. "What do you think? It's weird, isn't it?" Tia said shyly. Looking at her, Ed's mind started racing. "Eh? Why? Why are you wearing the same clothes as back then? I don't get it. Why are you wearing it indoors? Maybe it's just being cautious. I mean, if they haven't heard from someone for years and suddenly that person shows up at their door, then it's reasonable to be suspicious of them, right?" Just then, Tia raised her voice. "Ed?" Ed was startled. "Ah, what?" Tia then put her hand toward him and said, "Take your clothes off." "Eh?" Ed goes. It turned out she meant for Ed to take his cloak off so she could fix it. They then spent time with each other while fixing Ed's clothes. Tia looked at the fruit platter and asked, "Are you sure they're not sour? I mean, they're orange fruit after all." "It's really true. If it doesn't taste good, then you can ask me anything." "Oh yeah? Then feed me," Tia said casually, catching Ed off guard. His face got red as he said, "Huh? Why? Eat it yourself." But Tia reasoned, "Eh? But I've got my hands full fixing Ed's clothes, so I'm hoping someone will feed me?" Ed ran out of arguments. He yielded to her and started feeding her fruits, but he couldn't help but shake while doing so. Tia opened her mouth and took a bite, but her face immediately scrunched up. "Sour!" Ed, surprised, saying, "Eh? You're lying." He then started doubting himself. Could it be that I made some mistake? That shouldn't be the case. He then tried to verify by eating it himself, his face already scrunched, preparing for the sourness coming. Chump, he took a bite, but nothing happened. It was sweet. He then realized as he turned his eyes to Tia, who was already struggling to hide her laughter. "Hey, it's just plain sweet, isn't it? Tia-san, don't you think this prank is a bit childish?" Tia tried to contain her excitement, saying, "This much is enough. We used to play together like this, didn't we?" "Don't be ridiculous. It's just me being one-sidedly toyed with." "Eh? Even though I was so affectionate to you?" Their bantering continued, going back and forth, and at the end, Ed noted how even after 10 years, Tia hasn't changed. He thought to himself, even though she looks younger than me, Tia is an elf over 100 years old. I guess from their point of view, it was like playing with a small child, so I tried my best to restrain myself so that she wouldn't get the wrong impression of me. And that rightness is proven in a not-so-pleasing way at the end. Bro, this guy is so dense, oh my god. Thinking about this, he accidentally mumbled out loud, as expected of the woman who exiled me from the hero's party. Hearing this, Tia looked down, her face guilty. Ed, realizing what he'd just said, he panicked, trying to explain. No, it's different, okay? I'm not holding a grudge against Tia, and I'm not letting it drag me down. I was just reminiscing about the old days, so I said something light like this." Tia, still thinking about it, apologized to Ed. "Sorry, I'm sorry." But Ed tried to assure her. No, it's really not like that. It was my fault, so forgive me." Tia then said, "But Ed, aren't you here to blame me? That's why you came here, right?" Blame you? What are you talking about? Tia then continued, her face darkened with a deep, guilty sadness. I'm the only one who survived. Hearing this, Ed could feel the conversation getting heavy. He asked Tia if she could tell him what happened back then. She recalled the past as she continued sewing clothes. The thread led us to a scene in the past where a crowd of people trying to get close to something. That was the hero's party. Tia continued, right after Ed left, we tried to find someone to take Ed's place. But that didn't go well. See, when Ed left, we were near the front line of our battle against the Demon King's army, right? So the only people responded to a recruitment were those who wanted to fight with us and obtain achievements. But all we wanted was someone to manage our baggage so that we could fight as hard as we could. We just couldn't get along with someone who would throw away the baggage to go off and fight on their own. We hired about 6 people, but they all quit soon. So we ended up hiring a professional porter. Even that person left after 3 months. Hearing this, Ed was confused. He questioned why, aside from those previous idiots who made mistakes, why did the professional porter quit also? Tia then continued, that person did nothing but carry the luggage. See, Ed, you were doing so much for us, weren't you? On top of carrying all the baggage, there was cleaning, doing laundry, arranging lodging, etc. You even cooked for us. Hearing this, Ed recalled how he was so weak that he didn't want to get kicked out, so he desperately tried to make his presence felt. Tia continued with the story. We misunderstood Ed's hard work as the norm. That's why Alexis demanded the same thing from people we just hired. Then when the professional porter argued that his job is only to carry baggage and that doesn't include any other chores, and that we should hire a personal servant or scullery maid if we wanted so much, hearing that, Alexis yelled back, then get out! And on top of that, she noted how all of them didn't have the luxury of time either. It was only after this they realized the true value of the person they had exiled. Saying this, Tia grinded her teeth. Because of that, we were having a hard time because no one was ready to accept our job anymore. Then we were approached by someone. In her memory, a person with a smiling mask approached them, saying, "Are you looking for a porter to carry your stuff?" He also said that he would be happy to do chores on top of that. Damn bro, I don't know what they're thinking, but I personally wouldn't believe anyone who wore that mask. Hearing that person propose, Alexis gladly accepted it, and so was Tia and Gonzo. With that, they finally resumed their activities, and that person worked hard too. After a long time, they finally made it through the demon world. Tia then said, when the deep forest ended, we arrived at the Demon King's domain. But standing in front of them was the Demon King's army, full force, all prepared, like they were already waiting for the heroes' party, waiting for them to step into this trap and destroy them all. Before this, Tia had a hunch, that's why she was prepared and ready. But before they could even realize it, the porter had already run away, bringing all the healing potions and magic tools they prepared for them, and disappeared in a blue light. This revelation sent chills down Ed's spine. He realized what's going on and jumped up. That light, a teleportation crystal? That's right, Tia confirmed his assumption. I had prepared enough for everyone so that we could return to the royal capital in case of emergency. She then continued, to use it, you're supposed to break them, right? You don't want to accidentally break it in the middle of a fight. That's why I entrusted everyone's share to that person, but Ed couldn't believe what he just heard. He tried coming up with a reason that could explain the situation. Did they get scared and run away? No way. A person who traveled through the demon world with the hero's party after all those years wouldn't do such things. Or did they intend to betray them from the beginning because of the baggage? They conveniently entered the troubled hero's party and kept looking for opportunities. I don't know, Tia said, but since that happened, we had no choice but to fight. But then a demonic beast came out from the demon world behind us. The scene showed a beast attacking Tia from behind, catching her off guard. But just in time, Gonzo jumped in and blocked the attack, successfully stalled the desperate fight for just a little bit longer. But with that, they were caught between a rock and a hard place, and there's nothing they could do about it. Trying to hold down the beast, Gonzo shouted Alexis's name, with Tia also caught up with his signal. Turns out, in order to avoid this kind of worst-case scenario, there was only one teleportation crystal which was planted in the heart of Alexis's armor. No matter what happens, in order to ensure that the hero returns alive, and this world never loses hope. Knowing this, Tia calls for Alexis to go, noting how he was a hero chosen by God and a prince of a great country. It was his responsibility to come back alive. But suddenly, Alexis raised his voice. He said sorry as he put the crystal into Tia's hand, and in front of her confused face, he said, "Abandoning his comrades and surviving alone. There's no way a hero would do such an uncool thing, right?" And before Tia could even comprehend his words, Alexis quickly smashed the crystal, activating it. Tia was shocked as in front of her eyes, she could see her view of the battleground was quickly engulfed by brilliant blue lights. The teleportation lights surrounded her, covering everything she could see, and before long she could no longer see her comrades. Scared, confused, hopeless, she stretched her arm forward in a desperate attempt to reach for her comrades through the blinding lights. But just as the lights went out, Alexis is no longer in front of her. The teleportation had been completed. Tia's, who was looking at that fateful memory of the past imagined inside her mind, slowly regained her view in the present to find out that tears were falling down onto her hands. She sat there at the table, crying, regretting her lack of power to save her friends. Looking at Tia crying, Ed stayed quiet. He noted how, at the end of the day, Alexis chose pride instead of the hero's mission. It's just like him to make the wrong choice without hesitation. But, Ed thought quietly, Alexis, you're not the only one who can't survive by abandoning your friends. As he looked at Tia crying, he felt sorry for her, and so did the forest. It stayed quiet, letting their time together pass. After a while, when Tia stopped crying, Ed asked her if she calmed down, which then Tia responded positively. She apologized and thanked him, then continued with the story. After being transported, Tia ended up in a secret room in the castle of Notland. But when the higher-ups of the castle found her, they questioned her what happened to the prince and accused her of stealing Alexis's teleportation crystal. Just then, the king arrived. He asked her, "Tell me what happened to my son." Tia then explained the situation to him. Hearing what happened, the king couldn't help but let out a crying, pained, tormented expression. He told Tia to go and hide herself somewhere far away, and let's tell the masses that the hero's party was all wiped out after crossing the demon world. Hearing this, Ed was surprised. He thought the king was trying to banish Tia from the whole country, but he considered the king's decision again and thought that it was actually a reasonable decision. He thought about how Alexis weighed the future of the world against the lives of his comrades and chose the latter. Knowing him, that's certainly how he would have looked at it. But as a hero, it was the completely wrong decision, and he was bound to get ostracized for it. The king also understood this, and to think for his son to go through such lengths to save his comrades, only for her to be accused of betraying him, the king made a decision to help hide his son's comrades somewhere far away, out of the reach of the masses. He respected his son's final wish. Tia then continued, "And because of that, I couldn't participate in the next 3 expeditions to the demon world." "Huh? Expeditions?" Ed asked. Tia looked at him, confused. She asked, "You don't know that? How far away did you live?" Ha ha! Ed realized he had messed up. He tried to laugh it off. Seeing this, Tia didn't try to push for more. She smiled slightly and explained to Ed. The Allied nations sent forces 3 times to rescue Alexis. Even when they knew that they couldn't break through the demon world with their army, they tried everything for a ray of hope, since there were no heroes left to fight. But in the end, they failed. Tia then realized something. She asked him, "Come to think of it, it's a secret that I'm here. How did Ed find me?" Ed tried to explain, "Oh, actually, I recently acquired a magical tool that allows me to search for people, so I was wondering what everyone else was doing. But when I tried it, neither Alexis nor Gonzo responded, so..." Hearing this, Tia responded, "I see." Once more, she finally accepted that Alexis and Gonzo were no longer in this world. But internally, she thought it's rather refreshing that she got to face reality. After all, there's no way they could survive against that big of an army. Ed looked at her and said, "Tia." Tia then tried to lighten the mood. She shouted, "It's done!" Holding up Ed's cloak that she was fixing earlier, he asked, "How is it? Isn't it cute?" The part on the cloak, which had been torn earlier, was patched up and decorated with embroidered flowers. Ed looked at it and smiled. "Ha ha, that's right." Suddenly, he sensed something. It was bloodthirst, and immediately the house started shaking violently. Whoa, What is this vibration? Outside? Ed said as he quickly grabbed the cloak from Tia, rushing outside, while Tia tried to call for him, telling him to wait for her. But just as he stepped outside to take a look at the thing that caused the vibration, he was shocked. Huh? Why is a lesser dragon here? In front of his eyes was a lesser dragon. It somehow found its way into the sacred forest and was looking at him with an intense, bloodthirsty gaze. Looking at it, Ed questioned, is it a stray that came down from the mountain? That's unusual. Just when Ed was speculating the origin of the dragon, Tia ran to him. She asked, panicked, Ed, why did you go outside? Why? Because Ed tried to respond, but Tia quickly interrupted him, telling him to get back into the house and hide. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Suddenly, the dragon charged up his fiery breath and shot a wave of flame toward them. Don't worry, I can do this much now. It's a piece of cake, Ed said as he was about to deal with the fire breath. But before he could even do anything, Tia suddenly grabbed his shirt collar from the back and pulled him back behind her, leaving him falling over. Wah! Ed said as he fell down. At the same moment, the fire hit them. The dragon, looking at them, thought that the hit landed, but the fires were quickly extinguished, and there were Tia and Ed covered in a barrier of water. A waterfall? Ed was surprised as he saw Tia using her magic. Tia, with her back turned at him, looking toward the dragon, she said, No one is going to die anymore. I will protect Ed. She then started chanting spells, and at the same time, the dragon flew up, ready to rush down and hit them with his claw. The blade of the silver moon that twists and spins the wind is the blade of the green moon, and the feathers of the 6 pairs of spirits in 3 directions are feathers that harden and drop the dull light. Gather together, surround yourself, and dance. And as she was chanting herself, the dragon flew straight towards her, its claw inching from her face. But she had already finished chanting. In the name of Lunarita, manifest, Tri-Edge Stream. Suddenly, massive blades of wind shot out from her place, slicing the dragon cleanly into pieces. Witnessing this, Ed was genuinely flabbergasted. He couldn't believe how much stronger her spell was compared to back then. No way! A single blow? Ed was surprised. That's amazing, Tia. He then continued to muse on the sliced part. What is with this sharpness? Wow, not only the dragon scales, but even the bones inside are cut completely clean. How much stronger have you become since I've been gone? But Tia quickly stopped Ed. Holding onto his hand, she said, Please get out of here. Her expression was exhausted. Ed noticed something was wrong. He held onto her hands tightly and noticed that they're trembling. Tia, what's wrong? Get out of here? But your hand. Tia holds onto Ed, trying to laugh it off. Looking at Ed, she said, I wanted to show off, but I think I got a little too enthusiastic. I'm fine now. Looking at her, Ed insisted, No, you look like you're in bad shape. It's because it's been so long since I fought, she tried to explain. I just wanted to put up a show because I was in front of Ed. Wasn't it amazing? You? Ed scoffed, but he quickly gave in to her excuses. All right, get some rest, okay? Tia went to do as he said, but she kept complaining while doing so. You're as anxious as ever. Good grief. And before going to get changed, she still tried to tease Ed one more time. Ed looked at her. He thought, well, even if I say that, she was a member of the heroes party, so she should be fine. He then recalled Tia's words from earlier, telling him to get out of here. What do you mean by get out of here? I guess I'll just have to get rid of this guy, then think about it, he said as he looked at the dragon corpse. I guess I'll put it in straight in the Wanderer's treasury box, as it is. The contents normally don't rot, but I'll cut them up and turn them into meat just in case. Suddenly, a thud sound echoed out from the house, catching Ed's attention. Huh? He tried calling for Tia, but she didn't answer. Ed got worried. He went into the house while still calling for Tia. Looking up at her room, he decided he would come up there and look for her. Tia, I'm coming up, he said, but just as he climbed up, he was shocked to see Tia lying on the floor motionless. He immediately rushed to her. Tia, what's wrong? Why did you fall down? Ed, Tia tried to respond, her voice weak and exhausted. Ed tried to turn her to his side, but he noticed something horrible. What is this? His face grim, looking at Tia's body. Her torso was covered in black scales. Ed stared at it, worried. Black bruises spreading from the heart area to all over her body. From the neck to arms, from the waist to feet. It's like a patch of dead skin. What is happening to Tia's body? Clothes, Tia whispered weakly. Clothes? Your clothes? Ed panicked, looking for her clothes. After a while, when Ed had taken care of her, he asked, "How are you doing?" "Yeah," Tia responded. "I have calmed down a bit. Thank you, Ed." She then continued, "I didn't mean to hide it from you, but when I fought together with Alexis and the others, I used the elf's secret technique so that we could all survive. It's a technique that explosively increases the power of spirit magic by mixing one's own life with the magic." Hearing this, Ed asked, "Life magic? That means—" "Yeah," Tia confirmed. "The price I paid was my own lifespan." Ed was perplexed. "Lifespan? No, but you were fine up until a little while ago, weren't you? So why now all of a sudden?" But just as he said that, he looked at Tia's face. Her expression said it all, and Ed realized the reason for her suddenly worsening condition. "Lesser Dragon, you spent your whole lifespan on that one attack?" "Heh." Tia laughed slightly. "Well, yes, because I thought Ed would be killed if I didn't take the dragon down in one strike." Ed, hearing this, he was confused. "You thought I would be killed? Me? Why would she—" But then Ed got up and thought about the situation again. "I see. Tia did that because she doesn't know. It was his fault. Tia used her full power because in her mind, she still remembered Ed as a weak, ordinary guy from back then." Tia looked at him. She then continued, "In the first place, I didn't have much magic left to live, and these clothes are the only thing that held me together." Wearing those clothes, she was able to share the magic that the tree had gathered with her, and somehow she managed to stay alive for the next 10 years. But when she took off the clothes and used those kinds of magic, it was uncertain that she could live much longer. Ed was frustrated. He scolded her. "Huh? Then why did you change your clothes?" But Tia just smiled slightly. "Whew, well, that's because I was happy to see Ed, and I wanted things to be the same as they were before." In her mind, she recalled the old days when the whole party was still alive and well, when they used to share the same table, laughing, eating together, and sharing quality time. "But it looks like I have gotten careless again," Tia said and explained. "I took off the clothes and let the magic power of the tree slip out. The demonic beasts already seem to have noticed me, so—" Hearing this, Ed finally understood everything. "That's why that lesser dragon came. I see. So everything is my fault. I'm such an ill omen of a person," he said as he bit his lip, feeling frustrated. "Is this what happens when you get too cocky with the power of others? I'm the one who ran all the way here to make sure Tia was safe." Looking at Tia's face, she was worried for him. Even though she was the one in bad shape, Ed couldn't help but felt immense guilt. He thought that after all, he was the one who put her in such a situation. Tia, seeing this, she smiled and held Ed's face, trying to cheer him up. "Don't make that face," she said as she leaned closer to Ed. "I may have lived a short life for an elf, but I lived it to the fullest, longer than most." She continued, "I was able to make some good friends, and on top of that, I was able to meet Ed again, and that's enough." But Ed insisted, "Don't say that. We just met again, and we still have a long way to go." But just then, he noticed something, the sound of monsters. A lot of them. They're coming for Tia. "Tsk, they're already here," he thought to himself. Tia also noticed this chilling sense. She tried to tell Ed, "Ed, get out of here right now." "I refuse," Ed said. This surprised Tia. She still insisted, "I said no, Ed." But then Ed interrupted her. "Hey, Tia, it's true that I might look the same, and nothing has changed since then," Ed said as he recalled about the situation of him and his body, how the flow of time reverted back every time he completed a world, hence his appearance staying the same. Nevertheless, he continued, "Ever since I split up with you guys, I've been working hard on my own. I gained a lot of experience. I met up with a lot of people and split up with them. I've been on adventures that Tia couldn't even imagine. I'm not the same person I was back then." And as he was talking, his eyes slowly went up to meet Tia's eyes, and he said, I'm strong now. That's why, Tia, this time I'll protect you." Having said that, Ed went out of the house to be met with a horrific scene. Outside of their house were monsters, not one or two, but a horde of them. They've all sensed Tia and the tree's magic and were attempting to absorb it. Looking at the monsters, Ed's face darkened. He thought to himself how this time it will be him standing between Tia and the monsters. Tia, still worried, tried calling out to Ed, "No, Ed, please run away from here." "Don't worry, I'll never leave Tia alone again," Ed said. And with an assuring look on his face, he looked at her before turning to the monsters, the flower embroideries visible on his cloak, signaling that this time Ed is shouldering the responsibility of protecting those who were dear to him, and he will accomplish it. Tia still couldn't help but worry about Ed. She tried crawling out of her bed to get to Ed, no matter her weak body. "Wait!" Ed thought to himself, "Even in such a dire situation, Tia's still trying to stand up for me. What the hell can I do for her?" He then threw himself at the monsters and started wreaking havoc on them. "Mowing down a herd of demonic beasts won't bring back the lives of my comrades or Tia's lifespan. I know that, but still." He sliced one enemy after another, while Tia was still struggling to climb down the stairs. Ed jumped from one monster to the next one, killing everything in his path. But suddenly, his sword struck a stone golem, but its body was too tough. It shattered his sword. But that didn't slow him down one bit. He thought to himself, "I won't allow it to end like this. A miracle or whatever, if the current me can go back to those days." As he said so, he used the broken sword to slice open his hand. Blood spilled out. But that blood quickly formed into the shape of a blade, replacing the broken blade of the sword. It was another exiled skill, blood swordsmithing. And with this, Ed started slicing in every direction, shooting out a fury of projectile blades, destroying the whole monster herd. And just as Tia finally crawled out to the front of the house, she was shocked to see Ed standing in the middle of the battlefield between mountains of monster corpses, their blood spilling down to the ground, creating a red lake. Standing there, Ed thought to himself, "No, wait, a miracle? Come to think of it, if I'm not mistaken, there was a skill that I just got from the last world I completed. If it was that exiled skill, can't I just start all over again?" Ed thought as he turned around to see the amazed Tia looking at him.
The scene quickly switched back to the past, back when Ed was still in Alexis's party, and we got to see the reason for his expulsion. One night, Ed went to Tia's room. He opened the door while asking, "Tia, what kind of business did you have to call me to your room?" But just as he looked inside, in front of him was Tia, who was in the middle of changing her clothes. Seeing Ed, Tia let out a big scream, startling Ed. After a moment, we saw Ed kneeling in front of Tia and other team members. Standing in front of him, Tia expressed her disappointment. "I'm disappointed. I never thought Ed would do something like this. I'm sorry, but I can't travel with you anymore." And just like that, Ed was expelled for accidentally taking a peek. But the story behind it was more complicated than that. After Ed was expelled and he left the room, Alexis asked Tia, "You know, Tia, that was a pretty elaborate way to get rid of the hindrance." Hearing this, Tia responded, it's okay," she said as she grabbed her clothes tightly, trying to hide her frustration. "If I don't do this much, then Ed will surely follow me, and I can't protect Ed anymore." Turned out, Tia was worrying about Ed's safety. She knew that Ed back then was no more than an ordinary person, and with their journey only getting more and more dangerous from then on, she wasn't confident she could protect Ed. That's why she decided to make the hard decision and expelled Ed from the team. "I'm sure he'll hate me, but I still want Ed," Tia said. On her face was a hint of sadness and guilt, but she steeled herself. "I want you to live and see the world in peace, Ed." Tia thought so as the scene transitioned back to the present. This time, Ed was strong enough. He was able to protect Tia. Looking at him, Tia couldn't believe in her eyes. "Ed? Was Ed really so strong?" Ed explained, Well, after being expelled from the heroes' party, I started training again. Is that so? Tia said. Thinking for a moment, she asked Ed, Hey Ed, maybe you could take me to the border of the demon world. Ed stared at her, making her awkward for making such a request. She asked again timidly, Can you do it? I mean, of course it's totally fine if you can't. But then Ed put his hand on her head, giving her a head pat. Leave it to me. Even if it's the end of the world, I'm taking you with me. Hearing this, Tia's face brightened up. Foo-hoo, thank you, Ed. Ed, with his new resolve, decided to take her with him even though he wasn't going to ask her the reason. Internally, he thought to himself that he didn't have to ask since he already knew the answer. All he needed to do was fulfill Tia's wish. Strapping Tia onto a chair and carrying it on his back, Ed asked, Does it hurt? It might be a little bumpy, but please bear with it. Yeah, I'm okay. Let me know if you're not feeling well, okay? Yes, Tia responded. Hearing this, Ed announced, Then we're off, and their journey began. They left their house, out into the demon world, passing the chilling forest, the beast swamp, the demon valley. Finally, they arrived at their destination. Are you sure this is the right place? Ed asked. Looking around, Tia confirmed, Yes. Ed, please put me down. They were standing in a wasteland with the demonic beast's skeletons scattered around, signaling that there used to be a big fight there. Tia then continued, Here, Alexis used a transfer crystal on me. I never thought I'd be back here. Thank you, Ed. She walked around, tracing her hands against the rock surface, recalling her last moment with her comrades before she stumbled down and sat under a boulder. Alexis, Gonzo, are you guys watching? Ed. That Ed, he brought me here. He had gotten much stronger than I thought he'd be, and in just one night he managed to pass through the demon world that we had such a hard time with. I think Ed might be even stronger than Alexis right now. Oof. Ed looked at her. He tried to pass on an awkward smile, as he couldn't help but be worried about her condition and that he was worried about the outcome he wasn't ready to face. Tia then turned to Ed. She asked, Hey, Ed, do you remember when we exiled you? Ah, Ed responded as he put down his luggage, signaling that he did remember. Tia then continued, I'm the one. I've been thinking about it for a long time. I certainly didn't want a weak Ed to die, but that may have been my weakness because I couldn't believe in Ed. That's right, Ed said as he sat down beside Tia. They both spent their time with each other looking at the starry sky, at the furthest edge of the demon world. Tia, with her eyes still looking at the sky, reflecting the sparkling lights of the stars, she said, Ed, who I thought I had to protect, became strong enough to even protect me. If I hadn't done anything unnecessary, would everyone have been able to see it too? The glimpse of a peaceful world after the defeat of the Demon King? Ed thought that she was trying to blame herself. He tried to defend her. No, that's... But Tia quickly interrupted him. She called out to him, Ed. Thank you for bringing me here, Tia said. She leaned onto Ed, putting her head on his shoulder. Sweat broke down on her face as her voice weakened. I wish I could grant Ed's wish too. Don't worry, my wish will come true soon, Ed assured her. Tia then held Ed's hand, their fingers intertwined. She continued, What is Ed's wish? Ed looked at her. He seemed to have already noticed something, but he averted his gaze, smiled, and continued the conversation. It's been a long time since I went home. Hearing this, Tia said, I'd like to see Ed's house too. From then on, they kept on talking about themselves, going back and forth. You can come. My mom would be more than happy to welcome you. Is that so? Of course. I should also buy some souvenirs, like a bow for Dad and some clothes for Mom. I have to pick good ones. But if I make money and go home, then there'll be a lot of idiots who'll try to rob me, so I'll introduce them to Tia. Yes, Tia responded, her eyes sleepy. She slowly closed her eyes as she listened to Ed, her face relaxed and in peace. Right, Ed continued. With these exiled skills, I can do almost anything. I can defeat a demonic beast and become an aristocrat with that achievement. And then one day I'll eventually become a lord of a kingdom. But Ed saying all those things, but his eyes welled with tears. Next to him, Tia's hand, with the dead skins already infected, was holding a small flower. But even that flower had withered away. Tia was no longer there with Ed anymore. And Ed knew it. He slumped with his head down, trying to hold back tears. His last comrade in this world had passed away. But she did so peacefully, next to those dear to her. And she was happy.
Ed then looked up the sky. He wondered if this was also part of God's plan. Putting his fist to the sky, signaling his gesture towards God, he said, "I've been dancing around for the last 100 years, so I guess this is how it's supposed to end, right? That's why you gave me these skills. And it's fine. I'll take you for a ride. I will keep dancing until there's a hole in your palm, so..." And with his newly steeled resolve, Ed shouted, "Make my wish come true. Take my past, my future, and everything I got." He then activated his final exiled skill, One-Time Claim, and suddenly a pillar of light from above the sky, way out from the universe, went down, struck him. The light shone brightly, devoured everything, covering the world, and before we could understand anything, the scene had gone white. The scene then transitioned as Ed opened his eyes. Huh? Where am I? Ed thought to himself. He noticed in front of him was a chair and a table, and the scenery around seemed to be covered in a white color. He thought to himself, am I dreaming? And it didn't take long before he was finally fully awake as he quickly got up out of a surprise and panic. Ah, no! It's not a dream. What's going on here? How did I end up here? Huh? Ah. Perhaps I was kidnapped while I was sleeping? Or maybe I died. No, wait. Ed then tried to recall what happened to him earlier. First, let's calm down and assess the situation. The job I received today was to exterminate the claw moles and pests that were ravaging the fields. After finishing that and having lunch, I went into the nearby forest to destroy the nest in the afternoon, and then, as he struggled to recall what happened, his eyes met a door. Oh? What is this? A door? And just then, a book fell down on the table behind him, startled him. This never gets old. Ooh-ah! What now? Ed was scared at the sound of the book falling down. A white book, he said as he finally determined the thing that just fell down. After reading it, he mumbled to himself, "Ah, I see." In other words, I was exiled from the world I was in, and if I wanted to go back, I'd have to join the heroes party in 100 different worlds. He then screamed, complaining, "I ain't doing it. No way. Why would I get exiled in the first place? What's more, a hero? I'm just a small-time mercenary. There's no way I can join the heroes party." Just then, he noticed the crystal sphere started glowing. He thought that even though in the book said that if he touches the sphere while it's glowing, he'll get some useful skills, but he could help but find it shady. But the sphere didn't want to wait. It started shining way brighter, signaling for Ed to touch it. Reluctantly, Ed said, "Ah, crap, I understand, okay? I just have to touch it. I just want to go home." And the moment he touched it, the sphere sent a shockwave of electricity to his brain, and he wasn't clearly ready for it. Huh? Receiving the skills, Ed thought, what? Directly into my head? Flag maker and ability to meet the hero? What is this? Isn't it a useful ability? But just as that moment when he thought about the word hero, a vague image ran through his mind, the image of comrades he had yet to meet. Ed was confused. What's that? Who? I don't know, but from somewhere. And in this exact moment, everything came down on him. The sphere sent another shockwave to his head, this time sending an unbearable amount of information, all rushing directly into his mind. He was shocked. Memories for more than 100 years were too much for him to handle, or for anyone to handle, to be honest. Ed's whole body started convulsing. Memories? But whose? No way. My? In a world I've never seen before? I'm being exiled by someone I've never met. 10, 20, 40, 80?
The memories of the worlds I've visited. My head, it's about to break. No more. Overflowing with memories and power, Ed felt like he was about to explode. And with that, Ed blacked out. Just then, in his mind, echoed a voice so familiar, a voice so warm and endearing. So, what does Ed wish for in the future? He opened his eyes. In front of him was the memory of Tia, her head on his shoulder, looking at him with a gentle smile. He finally remembered. Panting for breath, he thought to himself, "Is this my wish?" "I outwitted you," he said to God. "I won the bet. In exchange for a one-time claim, I obtained the power that was essentially impossible. The power of the 101st, the best exiled skill that deceives even God. One more game, blessing of the second lap." And with this skill he just used, he was able to travel back in time to the day he first arrived in the White World, while inheriting all the memories and abilities that his future self once acquired. In exchange, he can never use this skill again, since miracles don't happen twice. But for him, once is enough. He held on to the side of his cloak, where there used to be the flower embroideries that Tia made for him, and he said to himself, "I'm sure I can do it now. Unrivaled with the strongest power, I've been successfully exiled from all the other worlds. You know, Tia, what's in my future is that shitty ending," he said as he let out a declaration while stepping into the first door. "To a peaceful world where we all toast each other with our stupid faces on. I'll change the future into such a happy ending. Here's to the beginning of the second lap."
The scene transitioned to a town inside a restaurant. We can see a young man. Sitting in front of him was a muscular warrior. They were arguing back and forth. "What do you mean I can't join you?" the warrior asked. "Surely you know I'm capable." But the young man quickly told the warrior to lower his voice. The young man was Alexis, the prince of the country, and the hero. Looking at the warrior, he said, "I'm sorry, but recruiting someone with your strength now would be pointless." He then continued, glaring at the man. "Although you do look plenty strong enough to carry supplies if you're interested." Hearing this, the warrior was furious. He gave up and walked out of the interview. Around them, the crowd started recognizing Alexis. They started exchanging rumors. "Hey, look, isn't that the hero? Wow, for real? He's so handsome. I wonder if that guy's applying to the heroes party. That's 3 people he's rejected so far. Maybe I should try applying." "You're being silly. There's no way you'd be made a member." "You never know, he might warm up to me and say something like, 'I'll entrust you with the lives of my comrades.'" Oh, I want to hear him say that. Despite the audible whisperings of the crowd, Alexis remained unfazed. He didn't give a slightest attention to them. But little did he know, hiding in the crowd was a black hooded figure. It was Ed. Ed directed his gaze at Alexis, making his presence known, and Alexis immediately noticed this attention. He turned around, trying to find the source of that presence, but Ed had already disappeared. The crowd thought Alexis was looking their way. They started talking to each other. "Huh? Is he looking over here? No way! Maybe it's me he's..." But Alexis quickly dismissed their talking. He thought to himself, "Just now, I sensed something." Unbeknownst to him, Ed had already moved across the room, sitting in front of him. "Look at this guy, he's just aura farming." "Yo, hero," Ed called out to Alexis, who was still looking behind him. "The strongest luggage carrier and the strongest swordsman. Are you interested?" "Who are you?" Alexis turned to him. Internally, he wondered when did Ed get behind him. Now that everyone had noticed Ed in front of Alexis, they started wondering who Ed was, and noting that Alexis looked serious this time. "Hehehe, let's see if we can create some intrigue," Ed thought as he continued speaking. "It's nice to meet you, hero. My name is Ed. I'm an adventurer, just wandering aimlessly. At least right now." While doing so, Ed recalled the first time they met from the first lap. "My first time here, I met you accidentally while wandering around the town. I clung to you and pleaded to be a member, but was shown no mercy. I promised to work for free, and they ended up taking me as a luggage carrier," he thought as he recalled the scene of him clinging onto Alexis's leg, crying, begging, making everyone uncomfortable. He then continued, "But knowing what I know now, that's not the best move. If I'm just a luggage carrier, I won't have any control over the journey ahead. Having said that, it's risky to ignore how things played out the first time. So this time, I'll be a swordsman too."
Just then, Alexis asked, "Oh, and if you're carrying everything, how will you fight?" All that bragging. Alexis was trying to call out Ed's BS, but Ed confidently interrupted. "Of course."
He then held up the plate of steak Alexis was eating and said, "Fair enough. How about if I can defeat you while carrying this as a demonstration? What would you think if I said that?" Ed said this, clearly trying to provoke Alexis in order to have him acknowledge his strength. And Alexis clearly wasn't having any of that. He slammed his fork down the table, destroying it. The shockwave was so strong, it even traveled through to the floor, shattering it. "All right then," Alexis said. "If you don't drop that luggage," glaring at Ed, he said, "I will consider you." Hearing this, Ed smiled. "Then I'll be in your care." "What about the restaurant owner, bro? He's genuinely sweating there." Ed then told Alexis he could have the first move whenever he was ready. But Alexis wasn't even going to let Ed finish his sentence. He was already thrusting the fork in Ed's face. But Ed quickly drew his swords, blocking the attack. His other hand still held onto the plate. He ran his mouth. "Well, that was dangerous. Oh no, are you disappointed?" Alexis tried to talk back. "You have a very big mouth, and it seems you also have some skills. But did you know, cold steak—" Yeah, it's not very tasty, is it?" Ed interrupted, stealing his punchline. He said, "That being the case, can I interest you in an early surrender?" Alexis chuckled arrogantly. He continued his attacks, swinging at Ed. Alexis thought to himself, "No matter when and no matter who, I accept all challenges to showcase my strength. That is the #1 duty bestowed upon the hero." The hero is a strong individual. The people embrace the hero because they've witnessed that truth. This is why it's foretold that the hero will defeat the Demon King, as their hope. Ed also acknowledged this. He thought to himself, "To join the hero's party, extreme strength is necessary so you can stand before people and showcase that strength. If Alexis loses faith in my strength, I'll never be acknowledged by him," Ed thought as he made a big swing, breaking the fork Alexis was using. "Now then, what next? This steak is getting colder and colder," Ed said, pointing his sword at Alexis. "Isn't it about time you started turning up the heat?" Alexis acknowledged Ed, but he wasn't satisfied. He said, "You're certainly capable of a thing or two." And just as he said so, he pulled out his main sword, ready for a second round. Immediately, Alexis charged at Ed. He struck down, but Ed quickly moved the plate out of the way and used his own sword to block the attack. They then engaged in a high-speed exchange. Alexis was delivering blow after blows, but Ed managed to parry all of it. He then provoked Alexis one more time. "Bet you didn't expect me to parry your sword. There's no way this is all the hero can do." "Of course not," Alexis responded. He snuck down under Ed's stance and swung out an upward strike. The strike was imbued with intense mana, heightening his destructive power. Ed blocking this, noting how despite all his provocation, as expected of the hero, Alexis does have some crazy skills. Just then, he noticed his sword started cracking. It's a cheap sword. It stood no chance against the hero's sword and was already reaching its limit. Blocking the attack wasn't ideal anymore. Ed quickly jumped up in the air to dodge the strike. Looking at the cracking sword on his hand, he thought, honestly, it didn't last very long. But then he noticed behind the cracking sword, a little further away, was the damn steak. He still had the plate on the other hand, but while he wasn't paying attention and jumped up, it already fell out of the plate. Crap, the meat! Ed was genuinely sweating. But little did he know, the steak started glowing. Turned out, behind the steak, even further away from the ground, Alexis was charging up his special attack. Wait, that stance? Ed panicked. But Alexis, with his attack ready, he said, "If you insisted on running your mouth, I'll show you true heroes strike." And with the glowing sword, Alexis steeled his gaze. He then shot off a projectile slash, Moonlight Sword. With the attack incoming, Ed thought to himself how using Impregnable Fortress, deflecting would be easy, but that was no good. He wanted to be acknowledged as one of the hero's true companions. He had to overcome it with his sword that he had spent on training for 100 years.
Alexis looked at him. He then gestured for someone behind the rooftop to ready for something. Meanwhile, Ed was fully focused on the attack. His eyes glowed as he thought to himself, "Match the direction of my swing to the trajectory of the slash." "And parry," he shouted as he performed a precise spinning motion, striking the slash at an angle to avoid head-on collision and successfully redirected the slash away. And with this last attack, his sword broke. Seeing Ed falling down after successfully defending the attack, Alexis said, "Well, well." Landing on the ground, he stood up. Looking at the sword that had already broken in half, he mumbled to himself, "Whew, made that work somehow."
Ed then was met with everyone complimenting him. "Whoa, dude, you're awesome! So cool! This is the first time I've seen someone who was a match for the hero." Some of the girls from earlier even said, "The hero is great and all, but isn't he kinda handsome too? Oh, he's your type, huh? I wonder what his name is." But then an old guy chimed in, "It's Ed. That's how he introduced himself earlier." It was the old guy who rummaged through the rubble Ed met from the last timeline. He continued, "His talent is amazing, even though he's a commoner. I wonder what will happen with him next." The crowd looked at him. They asked, "Who are you?" "Yeah, bro, like who the hell are you, bro? You appeared once in chapter 3. You're not that relevant, bro." The old guy was still trying to talk. "Who am I?" But he was quickly interrupted and shoved away with the crowd moving alongside Alexis, who then walked towards Ed. Seeing him, Ed complained, "What were you thinking? If you would have used that move against anyone else, you would have killed them." "Do you think that?" Alexis responded. "I, of all people, wouldn't have considered that?" Suddenly, a loud voice came from behind Ed, startling him. "Bah! Damn straight, Sprout!" Behind Ed was a muscular man towering over him. He said, "If the standard screening process was to take a serious attack from the hero, even I wouldn't have made the cut." Looking at him, Ed was surprised. Gonzo the monk!" Gonzo then continued, "You might not have noticed, but Alexis decided well in advance to push you hard. Just before he got serious, I gave him a signal to jump in if things got dangerous." Gonzo then stared at Ed. Putting that aside, do you know me?" Ed, trying to cover up his slip-up for calling him old man like he used to back then, explained, "Of course, you're the world's strongest martial artist. Your healing hands are also legendary." They then both laughed with each other. "Yes, my muscles are indeed the strongest! Ha 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 ha! Yeah, it's absurd that you're the frontline healer." But just then, Ed heard a voice calling out to them. "Gosh, what are you two doing? I thought we were getting ready to leave. What are you doing, Alexis?" Ed instantly recognized this voice. Meanwhile, Alexis tried to explain the situation to that person. "Just like always, I was just showing off a bit of my glory to remind a stupid commoner to mind their station." "A bit? You even used that skill. You too, Gonzo. Why didn't you stop him?" "Ah, come on, it's not that bad," Gonzo replied. Amid them arguing back and forth, Ed turned around. He thought to himself, "This is supposed to be my first time hearing it, but my chest feels like it's about to burst from the nostalgia." "Of course it is," that person scoffed at Gonzo. Then she called out to Ed, "Hey, you."
Turning around, Ed saw Tia, who was looking at him, her face close to him, her head slightly tilted as she asked, "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Ed was speechless. He couldn't respond. Internally, he thought, "I know her. I remember her. This girl, her voice, her face." Not getting an answer from Ed, Tia tried to talk again. I'm an elvish spirit user. My name is Lunarita. I'm traveling together with Alexis." "Huh? Oh, I'm Ed. I'm a swordsman and a luggage carrier." Ed noticed Tia talking to him. He tried to answer her and introduce himself, but before his eyes, he found that the image of Tia was getting blurry. He thought, "I really get to see her smile again." "Ed, it's nice to meet you," Tia said. But for Ed, he hardly heard her. Her face for him was getting blurred, and before he could even realize it, he was crying. Tears welled up on his eyes, running down his face. The tears that he held back the last time they met, to leave it for this time, when he got to see a Tia well and happy. Looking at him, the whole party was shocked. Tia panicked and asked him why he was crying. Was it something she said? But Ed just stood there, thinking to himself how it was really Tia in front of him, alive and well.
Tia turned around to Alexis and asked him, "Alexis, what the heck did you do?" But Alexis quickly denied, "Would you stop with these false accusations, Tia? I didn't do anything out of the ordinary, although I'm said to be strong." Running his hair through his hair, Alexis confidently said, "My existence could be considered out of the ordinary." "There you go again. Why are you like this?" Tia scoffed at him. Just then, Ed finally calmed down. He called out to her, It's not his fault." Wiping his tears away, Ed said, "For the famous heroes party to ask for my name, it's a little overwhelming and all." Or something like that. Tia, still worried, asked, Are you sure? You sure I didn't do anything bad? Is there something I can do to help?" "It's not," Ed said. "If you don't mind, could you say my name one more time?" Tia responded, "I don't mind," but she then tried calling his name anyway. "Ed?" Hearing this, Ed was more than fulfilled. "Yes." Looking at his expression, Tia chuckled. "You're a strange one." "Yeah, freaking weirdo." Alexis, standing in a corner, looked at them. He seemed to already notice something off about Ed. He then chimed in their conversation. "Well, it can't be helped that you would burst into tears, but—" "Huh?" Ed asked. "Look," Alexis said as he pointed to the ground, where the piece of meat from earlier was laying there, cut in half. "That luggage you were protecting was ruined, so we can't accept you." Ed stared at the cold steak on the ground. He panicked as he realized he just failed the test. "No! My meat! That damn moonlight sword!" "That's my steak," Alexis angrily corrected him. Just then, Tia, hearing this, jumped in. "Huh? We aren't accepting Ed? Even though he's on par with you in terms of strength?" "Huh? On par? Yeah, you even used a special move, didn't you? Look," Tia said as she pointed to the crowd, who enthusiastically affirmed her statement. Alexis started feeling pressure. He asked, "Tsk, let me ask you this then. Why do you want to accept him? I'm sure that you understand we already have all the combat strength we require." Tia thought for a moment. Then she answered, "He's strong, so I feel like we should take him," or something like that. And the crowd cheered her. "Even though I'm already here?" Alexis asked. "Meanie," Tia scoffed at him, and the crowd also did so, which was seriously ticking Alexis off. Tia then turned around to Gonzo, asking him what he thought. "Me? I don't really mind either way," Gonzo answered. "But," he then continued, "being a combatant while serving as a porter can be difficult. Putting so much pressure on our porter would be reckless. Alexis has a good point." When Gonzo expressed his opinion, Tia was running out of argument, not that she had any from the start, to be honest. Seeing this, Ed clenched fists, bit his lip, acting all sad and regretted. "Damn it, I really wanted to learn about the glory of muscle from Gonzo himself." And immediately, Gonzo sided with him, saying, "I'll take care of the sprout." Looking at Gonzo betraying him, Alexis scoffed. "Damn meathead." Alexis sighed. He said, "Fine, it's true that your swordsmanship is quite good. Putting myself aside, you may be the strongest here." He then threw Ed a gold coin. "In truth, we don't need combat strength. We're looking for a porter. I have no complaints if you can fulfill both roles. Also, an additional test. Go and buy all the goods you think are necessary and bring them to me. Since you said you're the world's best baggage carrier, let me see you prove it." After hearing this, he smiled confidently, ready for the new exam. Back in the first playthrough, Ed was also tasked with a similar test. Back then, after giving him the money, Alexis said, "What will you do with that money and how will you transport it? Go and show us what you've got." Hearing this, Ed bowed his head down. "Leave it to me. I'll make sure to do it right." Alexis heard this. He didn't respond and turned away. Tia and Gonzo went with him, but they made sure to wish Ed good luck before doing so. Looking at the money, Ed mumbled, 10 silver coins. Back in the present, this time Ed looked at the money Alexis gave him, but he was surprised. It wasn't 10 silver coins like the last time, but 1 gold coin this time, which was equal to 100 silver coins. Looking at the coin, Ed wondered if Alexis trusted him a little more this time. Still, he noted how this wasn't the only thing different from the first time. He then turned around to see Tia, who was walking with him. Turns out, this time Tia decided to go shopping with him instead of going back with Alexis and Gonzo. Tia called out to Ed, You know, I thought I knew quite a bit about this area, but this town has a place like this, huh? She said as she looked around the place he had taken her to, a small section of market tucked away in a corner of the town. Ed was confused. He was wondering why Tia went with him this time. He tried to ask, Tia-san, do you need something from? But before Ed could finish his question, Tia interrupted him. She was annoyed. Tia. Ed didn't understand why she just called out her own name. Excuse me? Tia then elaborated. Didn't you just use my name without honorifics a moment ago? But now you're calling me Tia-san? Ed tried to explain. Well, Tia-san is my senpai, so… But Tia looked at him and said, just Tia, okay? Yes, Ed agreed. He then continued, so why are you coming with me? Because I was curious? Like, I wonder what Ed will do with that money, you know? Oh, and you can stop being polite too. Ed tried to explain that's not what he meant. He was asking that isn't it a bit careless to tag along with someone she just met for a reason like that? Tia, hearing this, she looked at him with a mischievous smile, assuring him that even though it didn't look like that, she is actually pretty strong. Besides, she had a feeling that Ed was a good person. After hearing this, he thought to himself, what? It's true that Tia is friendly and outgoing, but she wasn't always like this. So why? Looking at Tia, who was musing over the place they went to, Ed wondered if Tia also held some unawakened memories from the past in her. Meanwhile, Gonzo was with Alexis. He asked Alexis, say Alexis, are you sure it was a good idea to let Tia accompany him? I don't think that kid will try anything funny, but… Alexis answered, if that's what Tia wants, so be it.
She probably wouldn't listen to me even if I said something, that free-spirited elf, he said as he repeatedly swung a hammer, fixing the stuff he broke during the fight earlier, while Gonzo looked at him and laughed. Ha! Well, you got that right. Alexis then looked at Gonzo and asked, is it okay to proceed like this? Indeed, it's a rather clever plan, Gonzo responded. Just then, the owner of the restaurant went up to them, his face worried, saying, please forgive me, Hiro-sama, but I can repair the furniture, so… Alexis looked at him, asked, are you implying that you're concerned about my ability to repair it? No, what I mean is… But Alexis wasn't letting him finish his sentence. Be at ease, I'm doing this on my own accord. When one causes inconvenience to others, one must bear the responsibility. That's all there is to it. The owner reluctantly agreed. Right, but it was not the problems he worried about. Turned out he was worried about the overly exaggerated style of Alexis's design, which didn't suit the restaurant theme at all. But Alexis seemed to think that there was nothing wrong with the design. Instead, he even thought it was beautiful and said, this craftsmanship is quite good for my first time. As I thought, I'm indeed special. And just when the crowd was still looking at the furniture, Alexis looked up and noticed something that was bothering him. He called out to Gonzo, let's go, Gonzo, this is bothering me. The scene moved over to Ed and Tia. Walking along with each other, Tia asked, is something bothering you? Hearing this, Ed responded, no, I was just wondering why you're so comfortable around me even though we just met. I was also thinking that you seem to be going out of your way for me. Tia heard that. She looked down and started contemplating. Why, huh? I'm not sure myself. We elves have far longer lives than humans. I'm actually over 100 years old. In that time, I've experienced many things, and surely forgotten even more. But you know, aren't there things you absolutely don't want to forget? She said as she looked at Ed's back. We elves carve these memories into our souls, though they may not be particularly strong. Even through death and rebirth, these memories will persist, seared into our very essence. So sometimes when we see a place or meet a person for the first time, we feel a sense of nostalgia. Earlier, when I saw Ed's face, I felt something like that. After hearing this, he thought to himself, memories remain ingrained into her soul. Is it similar to déjà vu? Although if that were the case, it wouldn't make sense for it to be unique to elves. He then turned to Tia and asked her, do you believe that to be the case? Tia looked at him. She then smiled gently while fixing her hair and responded, yes, I do. Or rather,
I can't help but wonder if before we became who we are now, we had met each other somewhere and shared a close bond. Ed stared at her and smiled. Is that so? He then bowed down before Tia, joking, Well then, I will not have any reservation, and it shall be my pleasure to enjoy your company. Tia heard this. She chuckled. What's that? All right then, bring it on. Well, aren't you reliable? Having said that, Ed thought to himself, Is there any truth to the concept of the soul? Does it come with you when you reincarnate? I have no way of knowing, but my future has already happened. I'm an existence that brings my memories and abilities with me, so somewhere, in another world, the memories engraved into our soul have to awaken. But how can I prove it, though? Ed thought as he and Tia spent their time shopping, having fun with each other. After a while, they came back to the tavern where he and Alexis parted, only to find something really off about it. The rooftop, which also sustained damage from Ed's fight with Alexis, was fixed, but looking at the overly exaggerated design, I guess we can already tell who fixed it. Ed and Tia looking at the roof, their eyes wide in shock. What's with this roof? Just then they heard a voice come up answering them. It was damaged by the moonlight sword, was it not? The voice turned out to be Alexis. He then continued, It was bothering me, so I was going to try to fix it, but it turned out easier than I expected. He then said to himself, I am indeed special. Everyone looked at him. They all mumbled in unison, Your taste is special, too. Alexis then redirected the conversation to Ed. Now, as for you... Tia then quickly chimed in. She said excitedly, Listen, Alexis, Ed is amazing. Is that so? Alexis answered, looking up at Ed. He noted that it seemed they didn't have any luggage. But just as he said so, Ed pulled out a pile of luggages in front of them, leaving Alexis and Gonzo shocked. He then continued, Let's start with the rations. There are 10 packs that will stay preserved for 3 months, and another 10 that will stay preserved for a year. I heard from Tia that we aren't leaving right now, so I only brought preserved foods this time. But before they could even hear Ed's explanation, Gonzo had to address the elephant in the room. Hold up, before that, what is that bag? How did you fit all of this in it? Oh, this? Ed answered. It's a magic tool I found in some ruins. It has a much larger capacity than you would think by looking at it. Alexis and Gonzo looked at him. Mused? A magic tool? Ed then continued. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but ever since I picked it up, I've been the only one who's been able to use it. When anyone else holds it, it turns back to a regular bag, he said as Tia was trying to crawl inside the bag. While doing so, she said, I tried to get inside, but it's not possible for living things to get inside, which is too bad. Yeah, you get it. Pausable, like possible, but with paw for cats, because she was acting like a cat trying to get inside the bag. What am I even doing? Why am I explaining jokes? Anyways, as Ed was explaining so, internally he thought to himself, obviously that's a complete lie. In order to ultimately be exiled from the hero's party, it's more convenient to make it about tools rather than abilities. The way the bag works is because of my exile skill, Wanderer's Treasure. By putting an entrance to the storage inside the bag, I can make it look like a magic bag. Ed smirked. Even the hero won't be able to see through this trick. Alexis looked at the rations. He asked, Out of curiosity, how much can you fit in that bag? Let's see, it should hold about 2 to 3 warehouses worth, Ed answered, but he noted that in reality it could be on the scale of the entire world, but he would keep that to himself for then. Tia then said proudly, with the bag still on her head, Even with that, we can still adventure straight for a whole year. See, is Ed amazing or what? What are you so smug about? Alexis responded. Ed then took the bag from Tia's head and got ready for the next thing. He then pulled out another magical tool, this time for creating water. But this time, Alexis and Gonzo weren't amazed. Instead, they wore a rather concerned look on their face. Alexis said, Obviously, this also proves that objects bigger than the bag's entrance can still fit through, but... Looking at Tia, he asked her, Tia, did you tell him? To which Tia responded that he knew. Alexis then continued, We already have a method of acquiring water. Tia's spirit magic provides us with all the water we need. Knowing that, why show us this? Tia also added, and get this, he spent 50 silver coins on it. 50 silver coins? Alexis was surprised. Tia confirmed and continued, "This thing would normally cost a fortune, but Ed still got his hands on it." But Alexis interrupted. "No, that's not right. Even if it's a cheap one, that kind of magic tool should cost at least 5 gold coins." 5 gold coins? Tia was shocked, and it turned out Ed somehow got his hand on it for such a steal. "Anyway, tell us why you bought it," Alexis asked Ed, to which he answered, "Yes, the reason I bought it is basically that as long as we have it, no matter where we are, as long as we have magic, we have access to water." When Gonzo heard this, he raised his question, "But isn't it the same as saying we have access to water as long as Tia is with us?" Ed denied his logic. "Say, for example, if Tia got sick or injured, we would no longer be able to ask the spirits for assistance." "That very true," the group admitted. "Relying on a single person for water comes with higher risks. Tia was so convenient that I ended up letting my guard down." Hearing this, Tia jumped in and slapped him with her hair. Don't ask me how she did that, I don't even know, but she said, "Oh, I'm just a convenience, am I?" Thinking for a moment, Alexis said as he stood up, "Fine, I will acknowledge your skills." To which Tia also said proudly again, "See, is Ed amazing or what?" Which ticked him off. "Seriously, why are you acting so smug?" He then finally gave his final decision. "A promise is a promise. I'll let you join our party." And hearing this, Ed, Gonzo, and Tia jumped in to celebrate. Hugging Ed tightly, Gonzo said, "You could probably put a piece of adamantine in that bag for muscle training, right? I'm going to build your muscles into the best they can be." Hearing this, Ed panicked. He still remembers that? Alexis stared at them. He noticed something and called out to Ed. Pulling a new sword out of its sheath, he asked, "You bought a sword as well?" "To be honest, I thought that you would put most of the budget towards a new sword, but..." Shoving the sword to Ed, he said, "This doesn't match your talent. You ended up buying a surprisingly cheap sword. Was this a compromise you made?" Ed then responded, No, this is just a disposable sword to get to the next town." "The next town?" "Yes, actually, I have a proposal. In addition to the proficiency I've built up in the battles I've been in and the training I've undergone during my travels, I've also accumulated some amazing treasures." Alexis looked at him confused. "What are you getting at?" "Well, you see," Ed said as he smirked, noting how he was being a bit cheeky, but this is a special second chance after all, and that he was 6 months ahead of everyone else. The scene then transitioned to Tia looking out of the carriage, amazed. "Wow, there's so many smokestacks. Are they all smithies? I bet there are some amazing weapons here." To which Alexis replied, "Unfortunately, that's not the case." It seemed the party had set off on their journey and was approaching their first destination, the mining and forging town, Atoramtane. The town was built on the mine, with houses merged into the stone cliff, each one with a chimney pumping out smoke. Walking into the town, the party discussed among themselves, "This is a mine, right? The main product they manufacture here is silverware." Turned out weapons weren't their main product. Hearing this, Tia guessed that the treasure Ed was talking about would be something like a knife that makes everything you eat more delicious, but Ed quickly denied and said it wasn't the case, though he did think something like that would be pretty cool. After they've settled in an inn named the Silver Stove, they gathered together to talk about their plan for the future. Grabbing a chair to sit down, Alexis said, "Well then, let's have you explain this plan of yours." Looking at him, Ed responded, "My plan is based on information from a reliable source. Apparently, in this mine, it seems a rockworm has built a den." The revelation shocked the whole party. "A rockworm?" "Yes," Ed confirmed. "Rockworms devour anything and everything made of silver. They leave giant crevices in their wake when they feed, which lead to large-scale cave-ins." Ed thought to himself, "Actually, during my first try in this world, approximately 3 months from now on, the rockworm will cause a massive cave-in and kill people. The people will despair, and the town will fall into ruin. When we finally arrived, another 3 months had already passed, and it was far too late. But this time, we can prevent the disaster from happening." Alexis, upon the news of the rockworm, he turned around and headed to the balcony to think for a moment. Then he continued, "Assuming that is the case, the situation here is extremely serious. Why didn't you notify the authorities? The knight should be deployed immediately if that's true. Ed reasoned, Haha, I'm certain that it's here, but I have no evidence, and more importantly, since it's a silver-eating rockworm, I want us to be the ones to take it down. Upon hearing this, Alexis seemed to have caught Ed's intention. Hold on, so the treasure you mentioned, is it mithril? Hearing this, Ed smiled, signaling that Alexis had made a correct guess. Aside from them, Tia seemed to not understand how rockworms and mithril are related. She tried to ask Gonzo, but he didn't know either. He suggested asking them directly, but Tia refused, saying that butting into such a serious conversation would be a little awkward. Alexis then tried to explain to them. First, he asked if they knew about mithril, to which Tia responded positively, Of course I know about mithril. It conducts mana well and can also store mana in large quantities. It's quite a rare metal, right? Tia then continued blabbering, When it comes to top-tier magical tools and weapons imbued with enchantments, it's common for them to be made of mithril. The way it sparkles is so pretty. Despite saying all that, Tia still didn't quite cover the bases of the metal, which made Alexis frustrated and told Ed to explain it to her. Ed tried to laugh it off and explain to Tia, Haha, it's not quite like that, Tia. The basic gist is, when silver is exposed to strong magic over an extended period, it turns into mithril. Tia then raised her hand and asked, I understand. That must mean this mine is overflowing with mana, right? But Ed denied her guess. Nope, if that were the case, why would the rockworm be relevant? Tia made a guess again. So the mana comes from the nearby rockworm then. You're half right, Ed responded. He then started whispering in her ears. Here is a hint. What do rockworms eat? Metal ore, right? Tia responded. Ed continued. And what metal do they mine here again? Silver. And where does the mana that turns the silver into mithril come from? The rockworm. For silver to turn into mithril, it needs to be continuously exposed to strong mana. With all those conditions in mind, the best place to make mithril would be the rockworm's stomach. Ed then leaned closely into Tia and said, Put in another way, mithril is actually the undigested excrement of rockworms. Oh my God, it's basically worm poops. This information finally dawned on Tia, and she recalled earlier when she was constantly glazing the metal, saying the way the metal sparkle was pretty. Turned out she was glazing worm shits. Alexis then continued with the conversation. So your plan is to subjugate the rockworm in order to acquire mithril. I understand that much, but how will you use it? Ed smiled and said, Well, of course, there's only one way to do with it. I'm going to prepare the best possible weapons for the hero's party. Meanwhile, Tia was sobbing. She couldn't handle the truth that the prized material she fantasized about so much was actually just worm poops. The next day, we got to see a group of miners walking out of the tunnel. It seemed their work was interrupted in the middle of the day. One miner asked, Are we sure it's safe to come back? And another responded, Relax, it's fine. Just then, their boss showed up, shouting, Oi, you lot! Who told you to come back? Get your asses back in the mine. But the miners didn't listen to him. One of them even talked back. Didn't you hear? We were told to evacuate by the hero. The hero? The miner continued. Starting from now, entry into the mine is forbidden for the rest of the day. Evaluate immediately. I will compensate for any lost income. Or so he said. I wonder what they're doing there. Deep into the mine, the hero's party was exploring there. Everyone kept their alertness, but still, Gonzo couldn't help but question, is there really a rockworm in the depths of this mine? It seems a bit too quiet for that to be the case. Alexis responded, It could be because the worm's feeding ground is still up ahead. Well, assuming Ed's story is true. Everyone is talking, except Tia. She was more quiet than usual. Ed also noticed this. Looking at the somber Tia, he asked her, Tia, are you still mad? Tia heard this. She hit Ed lightly, frustrated. Even though mithril can be mined like any other metal, why did you have to suggest this method? Ed apologized, but he seemed rather delighted. My bad, but hey, this way is more interesting, isn't it? But Tia wasn't having any of that. She scoffed, It's gross. Can we not just buy it? That'd be way better than poop mithril. Ed explained, I mean, you can just buy mithril if you have a ton of money, but it won't be the same as mithril collected from a rockworm. What do you mean? Alexis walked behind the two of them. He added to Ed's explanation. When silver comes into contact with the potent stomach acid of the rockworm, it undergoes an impeccable refining process, leaving it entirely devoid of any impurities. This alters the properties of the silver, ultimately giving birth to pure mithril. He then continued, of course, if you have pure mithril, you can make exceedingly high-quality weapons. Tia looked at him. She asked, so you'll use it too, Alexis? Don't be silly. Alexis quickly refused. I have my holy sword. Not fair, Tia scoffed. Alexis then turned to Ed. He asked him, so, Ed, are we heading in the right direction? Yes, Ed answered. Using his exiled skill, Akashic Compass, he confirmed that they were progressing smoothly. Gonzo stared at the compass. He said, a compass that points to legendary beasts makes quite a convenient magic tool. It's a shame that you're the only one who can use it. Ed tried to cover the fact that it was his own skill, saying, well, it was in the magic bag when I found it, so it's true that I'm the only one who can use it in that sense. Tia heard this. She childishly asked where the ruins were so that he could find such a good magic tool, to which Ed hesitantly said that it was a secret. They continued their descent down the mine, and after a while, Ed stopped and said that they had arrived at the destination. But to their surprise, it was just a dead end. Tia asked, is the rockworm on the other side of the wall or something? Gonzo then stepped in, saying, meaning we simply have to dig until we reach our prey. Now is the time for my muscles to shine. But Ed quickly stopped Gonzo right there. He said, perhaps you should put the bodybuilding exhibition on hold for now. There's no need to dig anyways. Huh? Tia was surprised. Ed then continued, here, I'll show you. Looking at him, Tia and Gonzo asked each other, what is he doing? No idea. Just then, Ed walked to the wall in front, putting two hands up to the wall. He winded up his leg and kicked into the wall hard. Everyone was shocked and worried. Gonzo and Tia screamed at him, concerned. Kid, what are you doing? Ed, hold on, you're gonna break your foot. But hearing this, Ed just responded, I'm all good. Turned out, he was using an exiled skill, Circular Reflector, a skill which stores impacts. He can take the shockwaves from his kicks, gather them up, more and more. But Tia couldn't help but being worried. She asked Alexis to stop Ed, but Alexis refused, as he wanted to see what would happen. And before long, Ed gathered enough power. He channeled it into his strike all at once and released a powerful kick that sent shockwaves through the inside of the wall. Suddenly, the ground started shaking. Alexis's gaze darkened. He called out to the party, everyone, prepare for battle. Just then, Gonzo shouted, from below, get behind me. And from the ground, a giant worm emerged. Its mere movement alone created enough force to shatter the ground and rock wall. Its whole body was covered in spikes, spinning at high speed. And its mouth? Don't even get me started with its mouth. That thing looked like a demonized tunnel boring machine. The worm immediately jumped at the team, trying to swallow them all, but the strike was blocked by Gonzo, shielding Ed and the others. Successfully held the worm in place, Gonzo then shouted, now, go! Immediately, the team jumped into action, with Ed and Alexis flanking both sides, ready to attack with swords, while Kia stayed behind and started chanting magic spells. O great spear of immolation, amber as the setting sun, by thy spirits, cloak thy four-fingered arms in the gentle light of dusk. Pierce, tear my foes asunder, and burn them to ash. While Tia was chanting spells, Ed and Alexis stabbed their swords in the worm's body from both sides, but just as they did so, they noticed that the worm's flesh was pretty stiff, making it hard to pull their sword out. Ed noted, swords aren't really suited to this, and Alexis responded, yeah, mine won't come out either. Nevertheless, then managed to buy enough time for Tia to finish her chanting. Manifest thyself in the name of Lunarita, volcanic lance. Behind her, a spear of volcanic fire appeared. Its blazing lights shone bright. Tia then said, go, and shot the spear out. The spear flew in a swirling motion, creating a flame tornado representing a volcanic dragon. Gonzo anticipated it coming from behind him and ducked down. The lance flew just past him and hit the worm squarely, causing heavy damage.
But it's not over yet. Gonzo noticed the worm knew that it couldn't win and was trying to escape through the roof. Hearing this, Alexis was caught off guard. He couldn't pull his sword out in time to try to stop the worm, and the worm was already attempting to jump up to the roof. But before anyone could react, above the worm, Ed was already there, ready to take it on directly. "Too bad, looks like you didn't see this coming," he said. And before everyone's shocked eyes, the worm launched upward anyway, swallowing Ed and into the roof. But inside the worm's body, Ed was rather calm. It seemed it was still within his calculation. He mumbled as he was sliding inside the worm, "Trying to take a break where we can't reach you, as if I'd let that happen. From here, it will be way easier to gut you," he said as he activated his skill Blood Blade Tempering, creating a blood blade to slice open the worm. Outside, Tia was looking at the site where the worm just swallowed her comrade, trying to escape through the roof, but was just barely held down by Gonzo. She was frightened. Her face was terrified, hoping that the worst-case scenario wouldn't be the one that was going to happen. "Ed!" She then ran to Gonzo, pleading with him to help her save Ed. But just then, the side of the worm was pried open from the inside, and from there, Ed jumped out, startling Gonzo, his hand holding something. Having finally gotten out of the worm, he screamed, "Yuck, so fishy." Alexis looked at Ed. He relaxed his expression and smiled, saying, "Of course it is. You got yourself eaten after all." To which Ed responded angrily, "Well, yeah, but it's not like that's going to make it stink any less." Just then, Tia ran up and hugged Ed tightly. She did not mind the blood and bodily fluid of the worm on Ed's body at all. She was actually concerned if it was Ed's injury. "There's so much blood. Are you all right? You're not hurt, are you?" "I'm fine. It's all from the rockworm." Ed tried to lighten the situation, but Tia was actually upset this time. She scolded him. "Dumbass!" Her words surprised Ed. Well, duh, it even surprised me, you know. She then continued, her face welling up with tears of frustration that Ed didn't seem to care about his own well-being, tears of worry that what if he got hurt? "Why would you do something like that? That was so reckless." "I'm fine," Ed tried to explain. "See, I knew what I was doing. If I hadn't done that, the worm might have escaped." Internally, he thought to himself, "Now that I think about it, she got worried like this the first time around too, didn't she? She hasn't changed from before."
He thought as he assured Tia, "I'm sorry for worrying you, but I'm okay. Something had to be done, and I figured I could pull it off. I just didn't want all of our efforts to go to waste." He said so as he gently smiled at Tia, and he thought to himself, "She is Tia after all." Hearing this, Tia finally calmed down somewhat. She admitted that what he did was the right thing and that he understood it. Looking at her, Ed thought about how he had to be a bit stronger so she don't worry so much. After that, Ed moved on the conversation to the main topic. "Well, now that's sorted. Ta-da!" He handed out the thing that he had been holding on ever since he got out of the worm. It was a big chunk of pure mithril. Tia looked at it. She couldn't help but saying that it was pretty, even though it is, you know what. Gonzo, on the other hand, asked if they only got this much from such a large worm, but Alexis explained to them, "It's plenty. This is the first time I've seen such a large chunk of pure mithril." "Huh?" Both Tia and Gonzo were surprised. Tia asked, "If this is the most you've seen, how much could it be worth?" One could probably afford a castle with it." "A whole castle?" Alexis then continued, "It's an extremely rare item, potentially one of a kind. That being the case, only the very best smith will do, but..." Looking at Tia and Gonzo, none of them were even listening to him. Their heads were still stuck at the castle part. Wow, an entire castle with just that rock? "Do you have any idea how many strength training tools I could buy with that?" Alexis was annoyed. He said to them, "Get a hold of yourselves." He then turned around to Ed and asked, "Say, Ed, we managed to acquire the pure mithril you were aiming for. Do you have a smith in mind that can work with it?" Ed heard this. He hesitantly answered, "Well, since you mentioned it, honestly, I was planning to forge it. I'm a pretty decent blacksmith myself." "Huh?" Ed's eyes wide in shock.
this luggage carrier that is also a swordsman that can rival him now also happen to a blacksmith that can work with one of the most delicate materials in the world? I mean, who wouldn't be shocked?
After a while, they arrived at a forge that they borrowed from the villager. Ed couldn't hide his excitement and started running around checking all the tools and facilities. Whoa, this furnace and these tools are amazing. Is it really okay if I borrow them? To which the owner replied, of course, the hero has already paid me for its use. Not to mention that you saved our town. Honestly, I should be letting you use it for free. But Alexis replied, that won't do. It would be rude of us to take advantage of you. Hearing this, the owner was stoked. So considerate. Hooray for the hero. Alexis then called out to Ed, listen well, I prepared this place as per your request. You may begin working, but... He then looked closely at Ed and continued, if you approach this half-heartedly, all of our efforts will be wasted. I trust you've properly readied yourself. Hearing this, Ed replied confidently, of course, and this time Alexis seemed to have trusted him completely. He didn't push for more, just looked at Ed and smiled, counting on him. Let's go, you two. Alexis turned away and called for Gonzo and Tia, but as he looked at Tia, she was looking at Ed with an affectionate look. Like, bro, look at this. That's the look of someone in love. I hope y'all have someone out there that will genuinely look at you like this. Anyway, seeing this, Alexis could help but ask Tia, it seems like you've taken quite an interest in him. Huh? Tia responded. Alexis then continued, the recruitment interviews and the procurement test, I know you're good at judging people's character, but don't you think you're a little too fond of him? You think so? Tia thought for a moment. Putting her finger on her face, she asked, why is that? But Alexis just looked at her and smiled. After that, Alexis and Gonzo went to get some drinks together, and while they were drinking, Gonzo asked Alexis, are you really in a position to ask that? If anyone is fond of the kid, it's you, am I right? That's why you trusted a newcomer kid and even led us to this town for his sake. Isn't that also why you're entrusting him with all of this? You, as usual, don't trust other people very much, do you? Alexis heard this. He looked down at the reflection of himself on the drink's surface and said, I've been observing him closely since he joined us, but in addition to being a swordsman comparable to me, he also utilizes mysterious magical artifacts of unknown origins, all while discreetly serving as an invaluable wellspring of information. And it's not just about monsters and how to handle them. It's genuinely impressive, even from my perspective. So maybe I'm a little fond of him, just a bit. Hearing this, Gonzo just laughed at Alexis, trying to act cool. That's very much like you. There's no need to be shy about it. Alexis, getting exposed, just sighed. Moving back to Ed and Tia, while Ed was preparing the tools, Ed asked Tia, I said I'm fine on my own. Won't blacksmithing be boring to watch? Tia assured him, Fufu, don't worry. I'm here to watch you, not the forging itself after all. Does that mean you're always watching me? Kinda. I want to see because it feels like you can do anything. Looking at her saying that, Ed could help but see a striking resemblance to the Tia who was laying her head on his shoulder back then. Seeing that, Ed tried to hide his worry, saying, it's not like that. In fact, there's a lot of things I can't do. I've let most precious things slip through my fingers, no matter how simple they should have been to hold on to, time and time again. But this time, with his steeled resolve, he started with the forging, all while thinking to himself, but I won't make that same mistakes again. This second chance, I'm gonna make sure it ends differently, using the skills I've acquired and my own two hands. And as he started striking his hammer, refining the ore, like how his resolve and determination is getting refined, he thought, I'll make my own future. I'll change the ending to make sure of it. Looking at Tia's gentle smile, he swore that with his hands he would make a weapon to change fate. Meanwhile, something just awakened outside of the house. On the rooftop not far from there were a guy with a drone the shape of an eye flying around. They were exchanging information. Welcome back, Cyan-sama.
this body is still stiff. The hero came, the fight. Pure mithril, huh? What to do now? The rockworm was defeated. Oh well. That looks like it would be a pain to deal with. Luckily, I'm just in charge of reconnaissance. But first, I should report to the Demon Lord. Turns out, those weren't any normal humans. They were demons.